to your March 2024 astrology forecast. I hate March. It's literally my least favorite month. If I could take out February, March, and April out of the year, I would be so happy to do so. I do not like spring. It is my least favorite season. With that being said, I'm not going to bring bad vibes to this reading. I'm only saying it from a place of being biased, one, because I'm on the East Coast and I hate this weather, and that's why I had to put my hair up, because it's so frizzy because it's raining all the time. Two, because I have my Saturn in Aries, and that means that around this time of year, everything has to cross over my natal Saturn, and it's never a good time. I'm going through a rough time. I know I look cool, calm, and collected right now. It's because I'm trying to be professional and show up and do this reading for you, but I'm really going through it. So please know that that is why this is delayed. I know that last month I said I was going to be better with the timing of these readings, and I want to be better. I do. I got hit with life. Life is lifing for me right now. So with that being said, thank you for being so patient with your reading. And if you haven't noticed already, this is a pre-recording. It's going to be at the beginning of every single forecast for each rising sign. So if you already watched yours and you're like, why is this clip coming up again? This is going to be, I'll put like a timestamp or something like that in the video so you know where to skip to. I just wanted to do this because I find myself when I do all of the rising signs like repeating myself a lot, and it makes me kind of burnt out to do these readings, and I'm trying my best to work smarter, not harder recently, and just make little changes to all my content and my work and stuff like that in order to show up and be the best version of myself and give you guys the value that's actually going to help you. Like, use astrology and understand it and use it as a cheat code, because that's the whole reason that I do this as my job. With that being said, I am making a little bit of a transition in my business. So this isn't like a hard launch announcement. I'm just putting the feelers out there a little bit, that I am going to be moving more into like educational content, creating a course, creating what's the word I'm looking for, like lectures and classes and stuff like that. It's not that I'm not going to be doing readings at all anymore. They're probably just going to be more exclusive, where I take like a handful of clients at a time rather than come one, come all, because that's what I've been doing pretty much my entire business. And while I do love doing it, I've met so many incredible people and worked with like over 1,000 customers so far, I have to admit that I'm burnt out, and I've been burnt out literally since my business took off in 2021. And it's been like a long time coming of me just having to accept that and make the changes that are necessary, because I want to do my podcast again. There's so many ideas that I have that like light me up and excite me, but I always have to put them on the back burner because I have to prioritize my clients first, which isn't a problem, but I just wish I could copy and paste myself and be there all the time for every reading, fully available. And especially when I go through stuff like this, it really takes a toll on me, where I'm like juggling all these responsibilities and all these people that I need to work with, and I like can't even, like, I'm going through something on my own, and then I have to show up and like talk for 4 hours about someone else's trauma while I'm not even processing my own. So I'm just trying to be responsible. I think I've said this like on my TikTok, where I think up until this point I thought the solution was like, oh, I just need to suck it up and work harder. And I'm learning now that like the solution is not working as hard, and I think I just was blind to that solution the whole time. So with that being said, has this been out of focus the whole time? It better not have been. Sorry for the noise. I'm in my little TikTok chair, which was such a good investment. Literally saved my back. But okay, things that we need to talk about this month with this forecast for everybody across the board, regardless of your rising sign. We have an eclipse at the end of the month. We have an eclipse at the end of the month. There is a door closing at the end of March that opened way back in the fall. Way back in like October 2023. That is the month that I want you to imagine in your mind, because it's going to provide the context for what's closing out now. And the reason I say that is because every full moon that we have is going to be a closure, like a door closing to a door that opened 6 months prior. But when we have that attached to an eclipse, baby, that is like 100 times harder and more intensified. So this is really going to be what was the precursor in the fall is now the culmination and the full circle moment, basically, in the area of your chart that Libra rules. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that. On top of that, we have a new moon in Pisces, so this is going to be a new beginning, a new chapter opening in the Pisces area of your chart. We're making the transition from what is Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, into Aries energy, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So I have the pleasure and the grace of telling you that if you have not been hitting the ground running with your New Year's resolutions, and you're like, girl, we are in the first quarter and I haven't even done anything, it's okay, because it makes no sense as to why our calendar that isn't zodiacal is set up to convince you that in the middle of January, when you're supposed to be like harvesting your nuts and hibernating and preparing for a winter, are you supposed to like transition to this new person. We're supposed to be going with the seasons, baby. It makes no sense why you would like get in a cocoon and blossom in January when everything is dead and cold. So with that being said, as we make our way into spring, it is the new year. Everything's blossoming, everything's like opening up. The seeds that you planted when it was cold and dark and stormy are now going to see the light of day and be able to grow and blossom. So this is your second chance. You always have a second chance. Every day you wake up is a second chance, but this is really your second starting point, I would say, to really take off on your goals, to even just really identify them. I think that people typically tend to get a little bit more independent this time of year and get that fire underneath their butt because we have things that incentivize us, like spring break, it's almost summer, like having a vacation planned, summer plans, things like that, that kind of make you be like, okay, I should probably get up, I should probably start working out, I should probably start saving up, you know, things like that. And you know, with a new beginning comes an ending initially. So we usually have to close things out in order to make room for the new things that are going to be arriving. So with that Pisces energy, that's where it can be the deep, purging, emotional, psychic, intuitive, spiritual endings and letting go, where we are suddenly becoming very poetic and writing in our journal, where we are finding ourselves praying and manifesting, where we are 3 days in of rotting in our bed, and it's totally okay because that's what you're supposed to be doing during Pisces season, is sleeping, resting, reflecting, kind of soaking it all in and learning your lesson of it all. Aries season is that fire coming in, baby. It's like the Kool-Aid man slamming through the wall. Pisces is being like, I just can't let it go, like crying over something, feeling like your world is ending because it is ending, because Pisces does rule endings. And then Aries is that like, fuck, like crying for, like it's a new year, baby, and you're ready to just like jump out of bed. I would say that the Aries energy, the transition is like Pisces feeling so distraught and heartbroken and purging emotion over all the things you lost, where Aries energy is like the motivation and the discipline coming from your veins because you're ready to get your revenge and prove everybody wrong that doubted you. So it's a fun little transition. It's definitely a big step from one energy to another, but that discomfort is what gets the ball rolling for a new zodiacal calendar year. So I'm super excited. I hope that these readings help you. Again, always check for your rising sign. You need to check for your rising sign. That's the only thing with my readings that's gonna give you the most clarity. So if you're checking for your sun sign and you're like, girl, it's because I told you to check for your rising sign, okay? Is there anything else I need to add? If you want to book a reading in the meantime, while I still have them open, you can go to kmoney.biz. Everything's going to be available in the like description of this video, all the links you need and stuff. So you can subscribe to my Patreon, follow me on other platforms, subscribe to my email list, my newsletter on kmoney.biz, so that way you can see the updates for when I do have courses and stuff coming out. Other than that, I hope you have an amazing month. Please remember that with eclipses, like, you're not going to die. It's not the end of the world. Can they be intense? Yes. They don't always have to be malicious. You don't have to be afraid of going outside. You don't want to fear astrology. When you fear it, it will find you and it will hunt you down and it will make you face it. You want to embrace the change. You want to be open to what it's trying to show you and to teach you. That way you can evolve. If you're scared your whole life, you're never gonna live. And if you're kind of showing up scared and being like, I'm ready to kind of experience it anyways, you're gonna be taken on that very exciting ride. So as we make our way into the new year, into March, I hope that you guys have an amazing month. Please share what you're going through down below, not only because I love hearing what you guys are going through and it makes everybody, I think, feel a little bit less alone, but also because it genuinely helps me do these predictions to see that there is a running line of consistency and a common denominator between people that share the same rising sign. So tell me what you're going through. I hope this helps you guys. Love you, and thank you for watching. Hello, Leo risings. You have to ignore how I look today. I am not on my A game. Just not in my vibe. Okay, for the month of March, a lot of the attention is going to be on your 8th house, which has a lot to do with personal transformation, complicated finances, things that you share and trust that you share with other people, as well as the 9th house, which is traveling, faith, philosophy, education, learning something new, getting outside your comfort zone, expanding your opportunities. And then at the very end of the month, we make our way into your 10th house, which is really your career sector, your public image, your reputation, your accomplishments, etc. So starting on the 3rd, Venus in your 7th house squared Uranus in your 10th house. This is going to bring a sense of conflict or friction or just a little bit of discomfort and the need to make a decision or take some action in regards to how your relationships are in relation to your career. So if it's not so literal in terms of like your partner is mad about something at work, your partner is pressuring you to get a promotion, or something about what your work demands are, or creating a rift in your relationship. It could have something to do around like a partnership, a business partnership, something where you have a shared goal with somebody else and that getting in the way for you to be independent, to complete something on your own, to sort of show your own success. It has a lot to do with how you work with other people versus how you work on your own, whether that be literally within your industry or your job or your position, or if it's your relationships, it's something that's more public that other people can see about you. So maybe having a little bit of discomfort with somebody that you're dating, and like other people can see that about you based off of the fact that you privated all of your pictures on social media. Like it has that sort of connotation. There's a level of shock or unpredictability, or something just being like breaking off, breaking up, a little bit of change or unpredictability when it comes to, again, Venus being love, finances, beauty, romance, how you relate to other people, and then that shock factor or shaking of the table and liberation in your 10th house of career and public image. On the 8th, Mercury was conjunct transiting Neptune in, can I speak right now? Mercury was conjunct Neptune, honey, in your 8th house. So Mercury is speaking, talking, writing, using your voice. It's communication. It's attention to detail. It's agreements. It's conversations you have. It's the texts that you send, the emails that you receive. It's all forms of really connecting, getting from point A to point B in terms of communication and transportation as well. Having that in a conjunction to Neptune can really conflate the truth. It can create a lot of blurred lines. It can kind of create some miscommunication, or at the very worst, like deception, manipulation, somebody intentionally trying to pull the wool over your eyes, or vice versa. In your 8th house, this might have something to do with trust or transactions. So the 8th house is about trust and how you overlap with people, where you end and other people begin, and how there's always going to be common ground that you share. So think of like making a pinky promise with somebody. You're coming together in a deal where you're trusting this person and they're confiding in you, and vice versa. In another sense, it can be with finances, like you are agreeing with somebody else to go halves on your rent, or to have shared assets in your marriage, things like that. So to have what is like a very confusing, very blurred line sort of vibes when it comes to communication and attention to detail, definitely pay attention to like contracts you're signing or things that you already agreed to in a more legitimate or legal way. But in this case, it could simply boil down to maybe somebody being just a little bit dishonest, or not being entirely clear, whether that be on purpose or not, about a specific piece of information. On the 9th, Mars in your 7th house was square Uranus in your 10th house. So similarly to on the 3rd, Venus was squaring Uranus. Venus is, things that are pleasurable, things that feel good. So sometimes Venus and Uranus can be like unexpectedly being attracted to someone that you're typically not attracted to, or trying a new food that you've never had before and actually falling in love with it. It can be the excitement of something new when it comes to attraction and pleasure. With Mars, it's a little bit more conflicting, because Mars is a malefic, meaning it tends to be a little bit more of a troublemaker than it does giving us like the greatest things in the world. So this can be a lot of friction and violence and disagreement, conflict, a lot of arguments sometimes, again, because this is in your 7th house of relationships and people that you share goals with, people that you work in tandem with in partnership. And then your career sector, again, things that other people can see about you. It's very public. It's your sense of independence. There's something that is like, when push comes to shove, you need to make a decision. Maybe there was something where the door opened on the 3rd, and by the 9th, you have to kind of do something about it, because Mars is very aggressive. It sort of, forces solutions. It's like, we're going somewhere. We are making progress, whether it's like good or bad or conflicting or harmonious, like we're still going to keep going. So it can kind of have that ruffling of the feathers vibe to it. But again, Uranus and Mars can often be unexpected war. It can be unpredictable rage. It can be impulsively maybe breaking something off with somebody else, or vice versa. On the 10th, you had a new moon in Pisces in your 8th house, and then on that same day, Mercury entered your 9th house. So the transition between the 8th house and the 9th house is really, the 8th house brings you to your knees. It's personal transformation, because it brings you to your rock bottom. It makes you hit the very bottom so that you can stand up on your own 2 feet again, and kind of dip into what is the 9th house themes of seeing the world in a new perspective, the silver lining, like having stronger beliefs. It's like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It is like you know, the phoenix rising from the ashes sort of vibes. So on the new moon, having that in your 8th house is actually a new beginning, a new chapter beginning in regards to your shared finances and trust. Again, this is complicated finances, so it might be less about borrowing 20 bucks from a friend and more about like taking out a loan or seeing if you can get approved for a mortgage or paying off your taxes or your debt or something like that. It can also be entering an intimate relationship or sleeping with somebody. Again, trust and transaction with others. On that same day, having Mercury go into your 9th house though is bringing your intellect, your ideas, your mindset, really what you're thinking about, speaking about, what you're having ideas about, what's really just going on upstairs into your 9th house of, again, traveling, faith, philosophy, education, spirituality, and kind of like what you can dream up becomes real. The 9th house is very much to like standing on your soapbox and sharing your opinions or your ethics or your beliefs with other people. It's kind of like upgrading from just speaking on the phone to a friend to now speaking in a megaphone to other people that are going to hear you. And this might be like learning something new, expanding your mind, getting into more of a spiritual awakening, even taking a trip, going somewhere, getting outside your comfort zone, saying yes to bigger opportunities. You're expanding beyond your typical parameters and going beyond your typical horizons. Sorry for the lighting change. My camera died and I had to charge it, and the sun set in the meantime. Where did we leave off? Okay. On the 11th, Venus entered your 8th house. So Venus is the planet of love, money, beauty, pleasure, ease, harmony. It really brings like what is this like soft, warm, cozy, fuzzy energy to wherever it's transiting. So having that go through the 8th house is really going to bring a sense of ease, especially if there was like some sort of conflict or discomfort in this area just a few days previously. This is going to maybe bring some solutions or bring some compromise or bring some, at the very least, agree to disagree if you're having conflict with other people at the time. In another sense, you might find that your interest, your heart, your desires, the things that you want are starting to get a little bit more taboo or intense. Like you might be more into like esoteric, very deep conversations, really wanting to get to the truth of the matter. It can also be a blessing financially. Sometimes this can look like somebody else helping you out, giving you a gift, helping you with money. Anything like that will be present as well. At the very worst, I would say the way that it can be conflicted in the chart is you just want to make sure you're not getting into any romantic or financial situations that, you know, bring a sense of power and control dynamics, manipulation, fear tactics, things that are like too dark in nature, not in a good way, basically. On the 17th, the sun conjoined Neptune in your 8th house. So the sun is usually going to be a sense of authority. It can be like a father, a boss, somebody that has some sort of power or control over you. It's also your own ego, your own personality. Having this conjoined Neptune in the sky can sometimes just look like somebody, again, kind of being a little bit deceptive or not being entirely truthful, hiding certain details a little bit intentionally. I think that this is going to be probably a callback to something maybe similar, or just bringing relevance back to, again, Mercury conjunct Neptune in your 8th house on the 8th. So between the 8th and the 17th, as we reach that mid-month sort of section, whatever was maybe miscommunicated or details that got lost in translation, all of that is likely to materialize and become something like a little bit more prominent by the 17th. This, again, can kind of just be like secrets, missing information. It can also be addiction and escapism happening in the 8th house. You want to make sure that you're not consuming things, doing self-sabotaging actions out of a place of shame or self-doubt or secretive nature for whatever reason. That could be something that you might think you're just sort of sliding underneath the rug or kind of pulling the wool over somebody else's eyes, and it's something that you can get away with, but it might bite you later, especially because we're in eclipse season. I wouldn't take any risks with secrets or dishonesty or anything like that. At the very best, I would say sometimes this can give you the opportunity to be more spiritual and more introspective and kind of see things again in this more deep, sort of transcending the physical realm way, because Neptune itself is very esoteric. It is very spiritual. However, usually in our practical day lives, I would say that it is a little bit more of a malefic, meaning that confusion, that lack of clarity often leads to things that are more frustrating than they are, you know, like liberating or awakening. On the 18th, Mercury enters shadow in Aries in your 9th house. Basically what this means is that, again, Mercury being the planet of communication, speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, all forms of your thoughts, your ideas, your intellect, is just going to be heading into retrograde as we make our way into April. But because now that it's stationing But now that it's entering shadow in this area, basically what it means is it's going to be returning to this area. So as it goes through its retrograde period, it's going to retrace its steps through the degrees that it's at now, meaning that what's going on for you right now is likely to again be reconsidered, kind of come back to the drawing board, maybe be revisited as Mercury goes retrograde, and then when it stations direct again as we get more into the spring. So basically what's going on now is probably not the end of the story, for better or for worse. On the 19th, Mercury is going to conjoin the Mercury. On the 19th, Mercury is going to conjoin On the 19th, Mercury is going to conjoin the North Node in your 9th house, and then the very next day, Mercury is going to conjoin Chiron in the same area. So Chiron and the North Node have been in Aries, and they're getting very close as of lately, and this is really bringing a lot of attention and a spotlight to things like wounds around ego, individuality, doing things completely alone, hyper-independence, masculinity, all of these things that really have to do with who we are and our ego and the way that we carry ourselves. So Chiron is referred to as the wounded healer, meaning that oftentimes it can kind of be where we have a trigger, where there's something sensitive, where it feels like, salt is being poured in the wound to something that is like an unresolved emotion or pain point. Whereas the North Node is like fated conversations. It's things that are very monumental and pivotal when it comes to things changing in our lives and rerouting us to where we're supposed to be, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. So having Mercury come into very close contact with both of these can look like something like a fated conversation. Maybe you're taking a trip, maybe you're traveling, maybe you have a revelation or an epiphany or like a life-changing conversation. If something monumental doesn't happen on this day either, it's not to say that like you didn't get the moment of this transit, but rather that this has a lot to do with what's going on again in your mind. You might have something that just really expands your perspective, where you start to think about something in a different way. You read a book, a self-help book, a podcast, something that sort of shifts your psyche and your self-concept and your belief to think a little bit bigger, even if you have been wounded when it comes to whatever this topic is. Even if it's something that maybe once hurt before, there's maybe like a opportunity to heal from it, or something to prevail past that pain, or to go beyond. Maybe something that used to limit you is now freeing you. On the 21st, Venus is going to conjoin Saturn in your 8th house. So this is typically a financial transit in general. It has a lot to do with having a reality check and being very confrontational and practical around the things that make us happy and give us pleasure. Venus is our desires. It's the things that we want, and Saturn is responsibility and discipline. So when we have those two things come into contact, I personally like this transit because it's being realistic about the things that we want. It's saying the things that you want are available to you, but only if you're practical and responsible with the steps that you take to get there. The only people who are really going to have challenges with this are people who are being delusional when it comes to love or romance, or they're dabbling in escapism when it comes to like cheating on a partner, or like kind of escaping their responsibilities by like distracting themselves with love, or with overspending, or with shopping, or overeating, or doom scrolling, or all of these sort of addictive sort of natures. So again, because this is happening in your 8th house, it might be more financial, but this can sometimes just be like, okay, I have a big financial goal and I'm realizing that my habits didn't reflect that. I'm realizing that maybe I'm overspending in this area. I'm realizing that maybe there's something I have to be honest with myself about when it comes to romance, when it comes to trust, when it comes to the things that I need to change about myself. I think it's a good day to look at the drawing board and take yourself seriously and respect yourself enough to know that the things that you want are available to you, but you need to be willing to do the work to get there. On the 22nd, Mars is going to enter your 8th house. So Mars is the planet of action, assertion, aggression, how we go after the things that we want. It really lights a fire beneath our butt and builds momentum to sort of pursue our desires very relentlessly. Even if there's obstacles in our path or there's things in the way, we are willing to kind of push past them, sometimes so much so to the point that we rush and drop things on the way and kind of create a little bit of a mess. So having Mars go through the 8th house, really wherever it's transiting, is going to bring a sense of change. It brings this like catalytic energy of things speeding up, getting very stimulated, making a lot of decisions very quickly, or just very much wanting to progress. So having this go through the 8th house again can equally be both a lot of change, a lot of progression when it comes to your shared finances, but also a lot of frustration. It's going to depend how it shows up in your chart, but having Mars go through the 8th house could even be a sense of like rapid personal development. I know that when I had Mars go through my 8th house, I was one of the lucky ones where Mars was in Gemini for literally 7 months, and that's where it was going, was through my 8th house. And it was kind of like a rapid fire phase in my life where I had to I could no longer run away. I had to face some undeniable things and truths about myself that I was shameful about, that I did kind of tuck underneath the rug and kind of never wanted to look at. those things both had things to do with finance, with romance, but also like with the relationship with myself. So this is very, I mean, Mars being through the 8th house in general, I would say it's comfortable here because it's through that transformative, like Scorpion, like 8th house energy. It likes to transform, it likes to regenerate, it likes to transmute energy and pain, especially. Having this go through the 8th house though, in terms of finances and love, if there's already turbulence happening, it's likely for it to kind of ramp up a little bit more here in order to confront it and find a solution. And if you're totally at peace in life, this might just be one of those things where you get into a deeper phase and you're just really diving deep with yourself, but it's something that can be very progressive. On the 23rd, Saturn is entering shadow in Pisces and your 8th house as well. So similarly to Mercury going retrograde, entering shadow in Aries is just saying that basically when Saturn does go retrograde, which is not happening yet, Saturn's a little bit more of a slower planet, so it enters shadow kind of far in advance, similarly, or not so similarly to Mercury. I actually don't think it's going retrograde until like June or so, maybe late May, but it's basically saying same idea. Saturn being challenge, responsibility, discipline, how seriously we take ourselves, it's gonna come back to this area. And Saturn we know is karma, it's consequences. It's also, hard work paying off and rewards of that. So to kind of see where it's going through now, again, I really want you to just pay attention to March and April in general, being the eclipse season. Really what's happening now isn't over. It will be revisited. It will come full circle, especially in the fall. But right now it's basically saying that things are starting to get put up in the air. We've had all planets direct up until this point of 2024. We're just starting to enter what is like retrograde territory. So this is where we're starting to see the circumstances and variables in our life kind of be more up for debate. It's something that's going to be a longer running story later. On the 23rd, so same day actually, Jupiter is exiting shadow in Taurus. So this is going to be in your 10th house. So Jupiter is the planet of growth, expansion, abundance, opportunities, the wisdom that you gain through your experiences, both good and bad. So having it having it exit shadow is actually exciting because this means that Jupiter was already retrograde and it already stationed direct again and retraced its steps through that period. So basically what I'm explaining with Saturn and with Mercury, where I'm like, pay attention now, because while they're here now, they're going to retrograde and then they're going to come back. With Jupiter, we already did that trip, meaning that now we are exploring uncharted territory. We're entering degrees that Jupiter has not transited over yet at this point in time. So this is exciting because it's basically saying, new opportunities, new room to grow, new maybe circumstances of growth and abundance are going to be available to you, particularly in your career sector in your 10th house. So your career, your accomplishments, your big goals, your big dreams, your sense of independence, your legacy in the world. So this is going to be a great time to kind of see what new things are coming towards you and taking advantage of that. On the 24th, you might be traveling for work and stuff as well. That could be present, or learning something new, taking a course, learning with a mentor, something like that. On the 24th, Venus is going to be sextile Jupiter in your 10th house. Beautiful day. This is an amazing aspect to have between both benefics, both planets that really want to give you good things. Venus, again, is pleasure, it's beauty, it's grace, it's aesthetics, it's money as well. Jupiter is that growth, that abundance, that expansion. It wants to spread your wings. It wants to cover more ground. It wants to go far and wide. So to have both of these in a very positive aspect as well, it's like good, all at the same time happening on the 24th. So again, this is between your 8th house and your 10th house. Really great for things regarding your career and money, especially if you're in sales, marketing, social media, anything where like you want to render investment or trust or likability from the public, from other people. Really good for like going viral and making a lot of sales. Really good for also even just like having a stronger sense of self. Again, kind of getting into that raw, true, internalized power and using that to succeed, to prove yourself, to kind of stand up on your own 2 feet and lead your legacy. Really love this day. Also good for like launching something, posting something, making something public that you want to go very well and kind of be fruitful for you. On the 25th, there's going to be a full moon lunar eclipse in Libra in your 3rd house. So this is going to be an ending to something that began back in October of 2023. You planted a seed back then when it came to things like speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, all those mercurial themes, but also your environment, your siblings, your best friends, the place that you live, the books that you read, the podcasts you listen to, the trips that you take, the environment that you're in. Like it's all of the people, places, things, environments, and circumstances that are very familiar to you on an everyday basis. Things that just kind kind of maybe are smaller details, overlooked mundane variables that actually make up what is the basis of what your life looks like on a day-to-day basis. So having a full moon lunar eclipse here could be like the ending or the full circle moment or a culminating point of a habit that you began back in October. Maybe you started going on runs every single morning and now you're starting to switch it up. Maybe back then you started a writing project and now you're finally finishing the last chapter. Maybe there was something back then where you kind of got super close with like a friend, or you started going to this coffee shop every day, or there was just something that you started to frequent or became more like substantial, more common in your everyday life, and now that's sort of coming to an end. Endings don't have to be bad. Again, it can also be just a moment of completion. On the 26th, Venus is going to be sextile Uranus in your 10th house. Again, a very exciting aspect to look forward to, because Venus again is things that feel good, it's pleasure, it's things that really just give us what is like a frivolous, sort of superficial, just across the board general good feeling. I always say this is like finding 20 bucks on the floor, it's having a crush on somebody, it's eating your favorite food, like it's just the general pleasures of life. So to have this in a positive aspect to Uranus, again being change, unpredictability, trying something new, a new approach, something that's maybe unusual, not so typical to you, invite some sort of freedom, authenticity, liberation, or even the ability to just like break away from something that typically does limit or restrict you. That's a very good day to take advantage of that, particularly again with your career sector. So things in the public eye, accomplishments, going after what you want, setting a big goal and completing it, maybe separating yourself from something that didn't allow you to grow or give you the room to grow and going after what you want. Very exciting stuff. I think that you are going through like, again, a bigger, longer running story transition of kind of coming out from a deeper, more introspective phase of your life, having a new perspective or getting newfound perceptions based off of your experiences or the things, the opportunities that are available to you right now to learn, to expand, to grow, and then being able to share that with the world with what you complete on the public stage.